What's happening, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of The Strange Road. I'm your host, Mikey, and as always, we got Bub riding shotgun. Bub, what's happening? How you doing?
I'm good.
Fantastic. We got a great episode for you guys. Hey, tonight we got Stoner in Master Control. Big shout out to him. Big shout out to all of you that are supporting The Strange Road. Say what's up. You know where to find us at The Strange Road everywhere. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Super important, guys. Let's not waste any time. I'm going to bring in our guest. We've got author, poet, alchemist, and earthwork researcher Phillip. You know and love him as Chasing Mound Builders. Phillip, what the heck's going on, man? Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Not a lot. I'm doing great, man. It's so good to be here. I appreciate you guys.
Absolutely.
How are you?
We're great. We've been trying to align and make this episode happen for a while now. You've been a huge supporter of our show. So number one, thank you so much for always being there and supporting us. And as we've seen you in the chats and shouting out, and we've got to know what you're up to and the work that you're doing, which is every time I talk to you on the phone, I learn something new about you. So we've been chatting a little bit here beforehand, and we've got a lot to talk about. So let everybody know a little bit about yourself, where we can find you, connect with you, and we'll hop right in here.
Yeah, so you can, first of all, thank you. That's an awesome intro. I'm honored to be here. Like you said, I'm a big fan of the show. And it's actually been, there's a lot of nights I've been in the lives, and they've made otherwise it would have been bad nights into good nights. So
awesome.
This show has done a lot for me just as a fan of the show. But yeah, you can find me on all socials as Chasing Mound Builders. My link tree is Chasing Mound Builders, but I write under the pen name Neomythic Scribe, Wanderer, and Poet. I just wander, man. Kind of a jack of all trades. I don't really. I can get into like what brought me into the Earthworks research, but there's all so much mysticism to it, really, which is a stark contrast from what my life was like before that. So, and I'm an open book. So, if anyone wants to reach out and chat about anything like that, I'm willing to do that.
And I think part of your story that's amazing is how you got into chasing mound builders and where you were in your life, because as we kind of got to know each other, I see a lot of similarities with things I was going through 10 years ago or 8 years ago that I see really align with you seeking the way you are. So I love that story. If you want to share a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem doing that. So it actually sprung from sort of a crisis. It was a mental health crisis in a lot of ways, but it was also a profound transition. I actually, it goes all the way back to 2019. I had a sleep paralysis episode where I thought I was dealing with like your typical, maybe ET, maybe sort of succubus type thing. I didn't really know what to call it, so I started reaching in every direction for what this might be. I have a different understanding of it now. I believe that it is more akin to like the Jungian concept of awaking the anima in men. But yeah, very much the concept of kind of losing your mind and finding your soul at the same time, to kind of put it in a corny way. But so that whole process was big. It got me back into unmasking what I had done to cover up the mystic that I was born to be. I came up as a kid. I was very much outcast for having all these mystical experiences and these abilities that I didn't know what to do with. And it just was, it was a very hard period in my life, but though I don't look at it as a negative at all. It's this kind of like alchemical blackening step has turned into one of the most beautiful things ever. And as so the crisis kind of turned into like a physical transformation for me. And I lost like 98 pounds and started doing these weird challenges and 5Ks, and my whole perspective changed. I was unmasking these layers of programming, and what you would call, like, in depth psychology, like the process of individuation, and to a degree. And I was with my best friend, and he was just like rehabbing from a heart attack, actually. And we were both kind of like doing this uh, physical transformation for ourselves. And we're out at Angel Mounds on the trails, and it hit me like a lightning bolt. Now, I had run those trails a lot. I know those trails like the back of my, like I was born there. And it never hit me before, but for some reason, I had all these questions about the mounds, and it felt like I was being guided. And there was a series of synchronicities that kind of led me to one author and one book. And I had no idea the just the expanse that I was getting into. But it was driven by spirit. I mean, if it's like a higher self thing, if you want to call it that, I like to refer to it as the trickster. This is, you'll notice, like in my Instagram and stuff, you'll see a lot of trickster imagery, and that's kind of part of who I am. Is I kind of honor that because it brought me a long way, and I think it's a misunderstood archetype. And yeah, so that's kind of how I came to mound research. I found a book by Dr. Bound, Eric Bound, about Mississippian sites. I actually got a hold of him and had a chat with him. It was a really, really good chat, and learned a lot. And he put me on to like this guy who wrote Knights of Spain, Warriors of the Sun, and Conversations with the High Priest of Kusa, Charles Hudson. I'm not sure if you're familiar with his books, but
no,
he's an absolute badass. And so Conversations with the High Priest of Kusa is a fictional work, but it's so much based on like native lore about like archetypes that they have and stories. And he's kind of like the OG when it comes to like Southeastern ceremonial complex, like academic research, but he has that like element of mysticism that just kind of grabs you. And it was just what I needed to find at the right time before I got into some of the, like, the more common stuff that you'll find whenever you Google, say, mound builders or something like that. So, and that's how I got my start there. And it became so much of like I was being driven towards this. And my perspective on it from now looking back is such that I know, I started this thinking that I was going to propel myself into a trajectory of growth, just personal growth. And like it was, but that I was also going to reach out and I was going to help other people. Like, no, there's another way. You don't, you can awaken the Anima, you can, all this stuff. And really it was just bringing me to my spiritual practice. And I truly believe that. I still want to help people. And that's my utmost goal in life, is to be a service to the all. And I'm deeply passionate about that. And people who are trying to improve their situation and understand their psyche, I'm very, very passionate about that. So I think that's where that was all leading. And it just so happens that I fell in love with mounds along the way. It was like the vehicle that brought me there, but now it's like a very, very serious love.
So you're what, like 3 or 4 years into this kind of awakening experience that you've gone down the line, and now you've discovered kind of your spiritual self. Are there any specific experiences early on visiting mound sites?
Oh my God, yeah.
Really kind of started picking up the synchronicity machine.
Yes, sir. Um, one of the first things I did was I went to see a um, sunrise at Fort Ancient and on the solstice. And it was pure magic. From the time I pulled into the place, um, I'm just waiting and I'm talking to someone from like a historical society and just waiting for them to kind of open up before dawn. And right away, I was like, for some reason, I knew I was there. I knew I needed to be there at that time. And um, the whole energy was magic. And I got behind the main mound to see the alignment. And I turn around and there's like these deer walking out of the woods. And it was almost, and I know this sounds very woo, but it's almost like they were speaking to me, and everybody that was there. And I very much felt this figure that I kind of fell in love with. I did a video on my YouTube channel about him, that the natives of antiquity referred to as Redhorn, or, the Falcon Warrior. I became obsessed with that because he's a trickster god, just like, all the other representations of that archetype. And it's almost like I was being reached to through these animals. And they literally came out and laid down, aligned with the alignment, and watched the sunrise with everybody on this day. And I don't know what it was about that was so magical, but it blew me away, and I got hooked. And I went to Serpent Mound that day with the intention to watch the alignment of the sunset into the egg, right?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get to stay because I had to drive back home.
Mm-hmm.
But that's another thing. When I got there, I was like, I know this place. I don't know why, I don't know how, but as soon as I arrived, I was like, I know this place, and this place knows me. And I think that happens when you connect to a site, and I know you guys know that. And I do that here with Angel Sight, and yeah, but they go on and on. I mean, I've had so many synchronicities involved with the mounds, and just weird happenings that it's even hard to even recall. I have pictures of very cold February morning of footprints coming up out of the Ohio River, human footprints, fresh. I'll let you know, down here, we don't swim in the Ohio, not even in the summer.
No, no one does.
Do you think maybe it was somebody that
shit.
fell in and drug themselves to shore? Like, not
Very
like
well
they were swimming
could have
for
been.
fun, but maybe they got in a bad spot and fell in, and that's where they got out somehow.
That's exactly what I thought. And I followed the footsteps into this big, thick brush. And there's a trail that runs east and west right there. And I'm like, why, so let me back up, because before I found those footprints, I'm hearing noises, and I'm starting to come into my recognition of being able to perceive some of these things that people sometimes have trouble perceiving. And I didn't know it at the time, but I later found out that these noises are associated with kind of the missing 411 phenomenon.
Oh,
what kind of
these
noises?
Loud, very loud metallic noises, like as though you were twisting sheet metal.
Underground, right?
No,
okay.
It sounded like it was all around me.
Okay.
It sounded like it was all around me.
Interesting.
And I had earbuds in. So I was already I wasn't in a panic, but I was like, something is off, and I feel like I'm being monitored. So I head south towards the river on the trail, because when you start off on the trail, you do a loop one way or the other. I'm heading south towards the river, and I just stopped, and I felt like I need to go to the river and see what's going on. I don't know why. It pushed me in that direction. And that's where I found the footprints. And I thought, these are fresh. And then I thought, it's about 48 degrees right now. Who is swimming And so I couldn't let it go. I walked like maybe 200 yards in either direction looking for footprints going in, because I was like, no, maybe somebody's fishing out here and they, you know, so I'm like, I got to find out where they went in, and I couldn't see anything. And then I was like, well, where do they go? So that's when I found out that they were going into this brush with like all this sawgrass, and it's not something that, and if that was a person that walked into there, it's not someone that you want to meet on a trail.
Right.
So
Was it, you think it was a person though, or do you think it was like a squatch?
I don't know. That's the mystery of it. Like,
I don't think I'd follow those footprints.
Was
either.
was it bare footprints or was it like tennis
Yes.
shoes? Oh,
Bear? You mean like a bear or
Barefoot.
No,
barefoot?
like
Oh
barefoot.
yeah. Squatch wears
Yep, and
Reeboks.
baby sass, Reebok.
Baby
Yeah.
box. No,
yeah,
that's
well,
crazy.
he wasn't wearing Crocs,
Yeah,
so not like
I'll
me.
bet he would.
Oh, for sure. And they should make them in his size. I think that would be like, considerate.
That'd
They
be a
made
great.
Squatch Crocs.
That'd be a great commercial too. That'd be great advertising, like putting Sasquatch, like give him a pair and just him on the couch, like just like his feet like so comfortable after a day of wandering through the woods. Sorry, we're getting
Dude.
sidetracked, Mikey. Sorry.
He would never go back. He would never go back to barefoot.
Yeah, he would lose hide and seek championship status like immediately.
Yeah, he's Croc prints.
Yeah, so I didn't follow him. In fact, I felt like compelled to leave. And so I did. I just wanted to finish the trail. So I went walking like towards the mound site, because that's how you get back in the loop. And I turn around at one point and I see almost what they refer to as that shimmer effect. But I wasn't sure if I was seeing what I was seeing. So it was kind of one of those moments where you're like, is this happening or am I descending into madness?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So, but I did see the brush move about like, I don't know, 7 feet high. And I think there's so many deer out here. What's the most logical? I didn't see the deer because it was too fast, but that's like movement from it,
Sure, you're
galloping.
Yeah.
Right. But that didn't account for the feeling that I got, that I was being watched and monitored. And it just felt really bizarre. And I don't know if scared is the word, but I was definitely on alert. And I was learning to come into my power of claiming my space spiritually
There you go.
at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put it out there, I'm not a threat to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean no harm to anyone at any time, but I'm also not a target. So I don't know if that helped or not, but like,
Yeah.
that's just like the thing you do when you're a little nervous and you're like, oh damn. But yeah,
Concerned.
that's one.
Maybe not
Very
fearful, but concerned.
Concerned.
Maybe a little concerned, bub.
Yeah. I'm concerned just hearing it. I'm not kidding. I am. I look like a deer in headlights right now. I'm imagining all this because you can tell, like, there are so many times where there's a good explanation to things that, again, just pattern recognition. The time where you see things that things don't add up, you start going, okay, that's when I'm getting a little freaked out, because we kind of know how things should go, right? Like there's a little bit of a rhythm to it. And when it starts playing a different song, we're like, oh, I hear that it's not normal. And we do. I don't know if it's just a humanistic thing, an animalistic thing. Our whole body as like this giant biological receiver and tuner, and our microbiome in our gut giving us feedback. We've got a lot of intuition and senses going off. So when your body gives you that feedback, I always trust that. You get a weird feeling, I don't care what it is.
Chills up the spine.
You get a sandwich from Subway where you think that maybe it's not so sanitary, and you might end up with the side of E. coli.
You get goosebumps. Oh God, what have I done?
Yeah, that mayo looks a
probably
little
still
bit.
eating it.
Yeah, well,
Turnt.
that's the other thing. I know. I'd be like Homer Simpson. How can you stay mad at that sandwich?
You can't.
But yeah, you know, it is. We have that built into us, but there's a book on it too. A friend of ours gave to my wife a long time ago, but it talks about like paying attention to that and how we've actually lost a lot of that because culturally and societally, you know, we've beaten things out of us certain where you're not allowed to be afraid because it wouldn't be culturally acceptable or societally acceptable or whatever it is. But growing up and not realizing, hey, we're still animals. Well, you know what I mean? Like we still have senses and intuition and we pick up on things that we're not even aware of that our body does a lot of times. You might think somebody's attractive for a certain reason, but because they're literally releasing pheromones.
It's hardwired into
and you don't
us.
know it, right? You have no idea. You're like, man, that girl is just good looking.
Yeah.
But it's because she's literally almost got this essential perfume of pheromones coming off her. It's weird.
Biofield.
Yeah. But again, this is where this is kind of the Jim Carrey thing of like the whole, how do we figure out, did I drink the water because I wanted to or because I was thirsty? Are we making decisions or is our body making decisions for us disguised as our own decisions type thing?
That is my whole, that is my whole question. I mean, that's the human question, right? But like, that is the whole, if you had to sum it up in like a sentence, that's what it would be for my, the growth of my own process is like, you know, the awareness.
Yeah.
Remaining aware is so hard. And I looked around at how long I'd been dissociative and masked and completely miserable. It's sad. And I think more people are involved in that than are willing to admit. We get stuck, man. We really get stuck. And it's easy, like when people do go through these changes to then turn into like, turn it into a thing where it's like a cast of judgment. And I kind of delved into that where I'm like, why don't people do things differently? And you try to be the tugboat, you know? And, it's just one of those things, man, where you, awareness is hard. It takes a lot of your energy and to stay focused and conscious and stuff on your growth and your path and your trajectory is very hard. I mean, damn, you can't hardly, and the way society's set up, it's not set up for us to win. So
it's not
everything is about comfort.
Follow your passion. You're not really taught how to, hey, you can succeed if you follow this thing that you're really good at and you do it a whole lot and you become really, really good at it. And then, you know, following your passion or your path or in a direction of having meaning behind what you're doing, whether it's a job or a business or whatever it is. You're not taught how to go after that. You know, you're more in the line of, people are taught in schools really how to be a good worker and which is great. You know, there's some, there's a part of that which has served all of us maybe. But you know, when you ask little kids what they want to be when they grow up, they just kind of look around their environment. I want to be a teacher. I want to be a fireman. I want to be a police officer. So
I didn't want to do anything. It's kind of like asking me, did I want to go to school as a kid? No, not as well.
We did not. We made.
What do you want to do when you get older? Nothing.
As fun as
what
possible.
I'm doing now in the summertime
because it was miserable for us. So we tried to make it as fun as possible. In third grade, the theory of Bubs of what if everything was chocolate?
Yeah, I was having
chocolate
deep
everything
back then. Like, man, you eat everything.
Hey, I'm with it.
I was so hungry in those days. You know, you'd have carpet square hour in the afternoon with a chocolate milk. Or if you were getting sassy, you'd have an orange juice. You know, those were the days.
Animal crackers and shit.
Yeah, no heartburn. Those were great days.
Now, Phillip, I want to get back to what you said. You were kind of learning how to, like, set your power, or you know, there's ways that there's a guy that taught me how to do that, and you get into a situation where you get your fear level, and you get really concerned, or you know, spiritually you got to like put up protections when you're in those situations. And I had a little mantra that I learned that really helped me kind of do a similar thing when you get into kind of like like on the back of a strange road and it feels like, there's something that's either getting ready to happen or you're being watched or, there's a certain process that I kind of learned that. And when you brought that up, that's just, interesting that was probably the first time maybe that you started figuring that out.
It kind of was, but it kind of harkens back to the sleep paralysis thing, which was a couple of years before that, because I want to say it was an entity. And at first I thought that's what it was. And maybe it is. Maybe the depth psychologists are not wrong in that, like, it doesn't really matter if this is an internal or like a more ontological like phenomena, like as far as maybe it's both, maybe it's up to the experiencer. I don't know. But I could feel this thing coming, trying to kind of penetrate my psyche as I would be falling asleep later. And through that, I had kind of those gotcha moments where I'm like, no. I know what's happening here. Like, you start to feel this like feeling as you're falling asleep and you're like, no, we don't do that. But I don't know that I never felt the fear in that episode. Like, that happened. I like, again, concern, because I woke up and there was a reptilian gal laying alongside my body, and I was completely paralyzed.
How old were you?
I was 38. 39. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm going to ask some questions. Had you ever,
No.
when seeing this entity, had you ever heard of something like that prior to, like, run across David Icke,
No.
the Reptilian agenda? Just saying. Just saying, because these are encounters too.
I'm with you, bub.
Yes.
Great question.
Because sometimes, if we prep our minds, or because I'm just saying, like, I've been listening to so many stories about Dogman and the Skinwalkers and all this stuff lately that, like, if I go downstairs late night, because I'm prone to like 2, 3 in the morning, I'm going to have a bowl of cereal. I found some pancakes last night that my wife probably had that had like some chocolate chips in them. I need a snack every now and then. But I have to walk by our creepy little door that goes to our basement, and our house is like 110 years old. So now my mind every night when I wake up for that snack is loaded with thinking about skinwalkers and stuff that wants to mutilate me down in my kitchen. I'm not joking. So it's weird because it really is one of those, like, and I'm just curious if you've had any of that prior to this experience, because I've had sleep paralysis as well. I never saw anything like that. But I've had some experiences seeing things in my house to the same degree to where it's not happening, or you think it's not happening, but you definitely are seeing and experiencing something. So I guess that's my question. So never had any experience before this or a reptilian story before that.
Did you catch the one detail he said?
Huh.
A reptilian lady.
Yeah.
Go into that. What are you seeing here?
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll tell the whole thing if you want.
Yes, please.
So
would this be a swipe right or a swipe left? I don't even know which way is a good anything. That's an application, right? I never had it.
I mean, man, you gotta take it where you can get it sometimes, man.
Hey, we have an old saying.
But I've already discussed about the fact that there's probably good looking aliens out there.
No doubt. Okay, continue.
Total recall.
For sure.
Yeah, sorry.
For sure. No, I mean, it started actually in a dream. And to answer your question real quick, like I knew it was a thing, but my experience with it was limited to like hearing people describe it as like a neurological condition. And I had a friend whose mom, they actually lived in a haunted house, and it was legit haunted.
Yeah.
But she had talked about like a black kind of nebulous shadow that just laid on her.
Yeah.
But that was my only description I'd ever heard of it. I had never heard of something like entering your dream and then you wake up and it's there, but doesn't look like anything like it did in the dream. Because in the dream, it looked like a very attractive woman. And I was in this unfamiliar daycare to pick up my sons. And I go in there, and she's like not answering my questions and like very much coming on to me and basically assaulting me at one point. And I'm just like, look, I just need to get my kids and like go home. Like that's what I'm trying to do here. And I remember there was like these giant picture windows all around us. I'm like, what kind of daycare is this? And there's like a jungle like area outside the windows. And so I wake up and I can move my eyes. I notice I can move my eyes, but that's the only thing I can move.
Yep.
And I look left and I look right. And when I look right, there I see like the silhouette, the outline, clearly female, but the skin with what little light was available was like there was a sheen on it as though she were either reptilian or badly burned.
Yeah.
And it was laying alongside of me with both its arms wrapped around my right arm.
Spooning.
And
shut
essentially,
up.
but I was on my back.
Me out.
Yes.
No.
I was on my back though.
Okay.
And so, but also her mouth was at my ear.
Right.
And speaking in a language that I'm unfamiliar with.
Like
I don't know
tongue.
what, possibly. And it could have been reversed because I do have a reverse speech compulsion. So it's hard for me sometimes to understand, and even English.
Wait.
but-
Stop. What's it called? What is it? A reverse what?
Reverse speech compulsion. So like I'll just say or read a sentence backwards phonetically so that like if you recorded it, you could play it in reverse and it would sound like straightforward English.
What?
I've never heard of that phenomenon. That's interesting.
Bob, you just broke
That's
Bob's
interesting.
brain.
Yeah. Anyways, okay.
It's
so,
very frustrating. It's very, very frustrating.
I mean, I
takes
have
me
a little
forever to read
dyslexia,
books.
so I'm like not great. That's why I turned to Audible now. I listen to everything, right? Like, because me reading stuff, it'll take me forever. ADD and mixing things up, it's just not good.
Yeah. And that can be frustrating, man.
Yeah.
It's like, it just takes you longer to do everything like that. And for some reason, it manifested in me like pronouncing it backwards so well that I can do it with long sentences and paragraphs. And it's very frustrating because I do it with like billboards when I'm driving by. And if I don't do it by the time I drive by it, I get unreasonably upset.
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hold
again.
on a second.
Give me an example. I want to understand this. I'm a good empath. I got to understand what you mean though, because I'm trying to get in your shoes of like, are you saying if you see a sign that says Subway, you say it's
Yeah, bus.
Yeah. Don't. I shouldn't have asked because now I'm like,
Oh God, Bub.
I do this with license plates. When I see license plates and I see acronyms, I make up what they might stand for. Like if it was,
I do that all the time.
FTC or something, I'd be like Federal Trade Commission.
Yeah.
You
Or
have
whatever
to.
it is.
It's like it's like a button in your brain. You're like, no, I got to hit it.
Like a little.
Yeah, like you
OCD.
could say like, I really enjoy the strange road. Doors nerds eat yours near Elir Yai. So
Stop!
We're gonna record. We're gonna cut that and we're gonna play it backwards.
Stop! I just
That's
had a whole
happening.
Twin Peaks moment there. With
with
the lodge. Are you kidding
it's
me
bizarre.
right now?
No, I wish I was, man. It's so frustrating.
Are you, Mikey?
I didn't know any of this about him.
I don't even know if that's a skill you can teach yourself. What he's doing there. Can you do that with the alphabet then? Like A, B, C, D?
Absolutely. Well, I'd have to memorize it forward first, which I do. But yeah, essentially.
Wait.
If I read it, if I read it backwards, yeah, absolutely. But I don't know it backwards. You know what I mean? Those are all individual sounds. But if I were to say like one of my notes here, like let's see, Mound A, 644 by 415 feet. Heath Neefif, Nadirna Rorf, I Rorfid Rorf, Dirna Xe, Yea Noam. So that's like,
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Tell you what.
I'm sorry. I went on a whole
No.
side quest, but
No, that
This
just
is
it
awesome.
broke my brain
This
there
is
for a minute.
great.
I was like, I
I've
didn't expect that.
never
I've never
heard
even
of
heard
this.
of that. And so,
No.
yeah.
yeah.
How did that get brought up? Because I'm so happy it did.
I don't even know, dude. That's yeah. So for those that don't know,
yeah.
I am
He was talking about
a neurodivergent. So.
Yeah. He was talking about
There
the
we go.
reptilian.
There we go.
Yeah.
Was talking
The
backwards.
language.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And I was like, how do you know it was backwards? And then he said he could do
There
that.
we go. Now we're back on track.
Sorry. Yeah.
But that started when I was like 4 years old. But anyway, but yes, yeah. So I was concerned, and it was the most concerning thing about this thing was that where it was laying, like my arm was hanging off the bed, so it had to have been levitating.
That's
where it's laying.
Strange. Okay.
So there's a lot of these things I'm putting together after the fact, but eventually I was able to move the fingers on my left hand, and I'm like a little bit worried. So I'm like, hey, like somebody help.
Yeah.
And I'm moving my fingers, and finally I can move my body. So I jump up and nothing's there, but I can feel it there. And everything came rushing back at that moment about the things I'd experienced, the mystical experiences, the things that always set me apart as a kid. I got bullied for stuff like that, and just being so kind of different in that way. It all came back, and it just was very emotional. And my response was like, I got to go check on my sons. You know what I mean? So I go in their room. I'm like, there's an intruder in the house. I don't think I went to sleep for like 3 days after that. But I remember sitting on the couch after work, because I worked night shift at the time, and I could kind of feel it trying to penetrate again. You know what I mean? So that's all that to say, like, Mikey, when you brought up, claiming your space, that's kind of where I developed that muscle, was like, hey, something is trying to like invade me.
Mm-hmm.
And that, as I said in the beginning, I think I have a different perspective on that now. I think it was more an awakening of the Anima, which is a Jungian concept. If anybody doesn't know, it's just it's kind of like the feminine aspect of the man. So it started this whole ball rolling on this growth and this kind of shift and transformation. But yeah, that's when actually, and Bub, you mentioned, had I like absorbed any of that material after that shit? Yeah, I was like, I got to find out what's going on. Like all these memories are flooding back, all these feelings are happening. And I realized that I had not allowed myself to feel in decades. And I started like listening to podcasts, trying to absorb stuff that would help me have some understanding of what the hell was going on. And yeah, I mean, so that was a big part of the transformation and kind of my whole story into getting into some of the woo-woo, because I rejected that for a lot of years, which is rejecting a part of yourself.
Yeah.
Because we're all spirit.
Yeah, it's tough for anybody though, if you have a singular experience or something that other people have, but it's not like, hey, did you go to McDonald's today? You know what I mean? Like, it's tough when it's something where you're like, A, who do I talk to about this? And B, are they going to think I'm nuts? So it's really like, again, like once you find somebody else that you're like, oh, you've had the same, like, then you can identify. But then it's, yeah. Even then, it's like a vetting process. We just had a discussion with somebody like this recently about how it's like
probably at Ohio Bigfoot Jamboree.
Well, just you're not going to be there. There's a give and take. Like people want to know that you're coming about it from the right arena before they'll start to give up a little bit of their experiences too. Because again, it's this whole like you start to get into more things than just being like, hey, we're friends. No, we start talking about we had the same like paranormal experience. You become more than, I think, friends, because again, you're in such a small circle, a small community there, with like-minded people. And for the most part, you get indifference or you get made fun of, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Ostracized. And
Yep.
it is kind of like a brotherhood thing. It's like, everyone has a different threshold, for what they'll accept. And people that haven't come to the realization that they are more than their physical body, it is very hard. Even if they have a practicing religion, it's very hard for them to come to grips with the fact that everything they see and that they sense might not be exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So some of us come to that through psychedelics. Some of us come to that through, a complete mental break, which is what happened to me in November of 2022. And I kind of tried to seek help. And then the following July I did. And I went to a treatment center for that. So started learning about CBT, and, Dr. Beck had to have been of some wisdom tradition. He had to have been, because CBT is letter for letter alchemy. It's spiritual and emotional alchemy. So, and at the time when I went into like therapy in July of 2023, I was also reading a book that would become my favorite book ever, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. A very popular book. It's kind of corny these days. Oprah's like, oh, it's my favorite book. But it really is. And it's because there are so many kind of epithets within that book and concepts that fully embody what transformation is like, and what trusting the spirit and learning to develop the spirit is like. It's such a great resource. And I started seeing all these symbolic sort of components, all around me. It was even my therapist wearing a caduceus. She had several of the platonic solids on her lanyard and had no idea that they were platonic solids. And like, so the symbolism was everywhere. And it's like it's very much a surreal experience when you start to recognize it and you start to see, oh my God, these, like, there's so much more to all these symbols and meaning and what people attach to them, and kind of how we traverse that landscape of decoding it for ourselves and how we apply that in our own practices, assuming you have a practice. But that's, it's I would say that therapy did a lot for me. I recommend everybody do it right away, especially group therapy. It's so awesome to see other people's wheels turning when they're stuck, like emotionally stuck, and you're able to kind of like jump in a little bit and say, hey, you're storytelling, or you're catastrophizing. Don't do that. But then when you say that, you start to see the spots in your life where you're like, oh, damn, that's me.
Wow.
Shit, that is me. So I just recommend that for people. I didn't mean to do like a mental health.
No, that's great.
But
yeah,
we talk about mental health quite a bit on this show. Just real quick, what does CBT stand for? What
cognitive
behavioral therapy? Okay.
Yep.
Sorry.
That I have heard of.
It's amazing, yeah.
And you're still active right now?
Yeah, so I don't go to I do go to therapy. I do have a therapist, talk therapist. And I study CBT. I like to write about it too. I haven't published anything in that arena yet. And I'm not the first one to make these connections. I found out, and then I found the Red Book by Jung, and my God, that put me in a spiral I don't think I could even articulate it. It's one of those things where, like, if you read that book, something will happen to you. I'm actually going through it again because I just figured out they released it on Spotify finally. So
I'll have to get it on Audible. Yeah. What can you give me an overall kind of concept or a what big premise or big picture of it?
God.
I mean, he's
it's an experience.
Infamous, but I know he had some. I mean, he was big on the dreams, right? I mean, he did a lot of interpretations of dreams and
active imagination.
Yeah.
So Liber Novus is kind of like, this was all published posthumously, and this is stuff that he asked his family never to publish. This was never. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that Jung kind of thought he was losing his mind.
They all do after a certain point. Nietzsche, I mean,
yeah,
you go in deep enough, man, you're going to come out and be a little bit off. Sorry, this is a great concept. I like this conversation. Sorry.
Oh, I love it. I'm a huge Jung fan. Seven Sermons to the Dead is also a banger. He writes as Basilides. That's absolutely a game changer. But he channeled that, by the way. A lot of people don't realize that Jung would channel. And I just found that out like 2 months ago. Yeah. I had read it and I was like, this is weird. Why is he writing as Basilides? That doesn't, that's not who he is.
Using a ghost name, you mean?
Well, I think he thought he was channeling Basilides.
Oh, never mind. I see what you're saying. I got you now.
And so when you read certain texts, it does things to you if you let it. And a lot of that is wrapped up in the Hermetic texts, which I love. The Emerald Tablet of Hermes Trismegistus is a big one. And that's only 14 lines, but you know what I mean? Yep. Like even modern stuff like the Kybalion. That's a modern text, and a lot of Hermetic groups completely reject that because it's modern. But
it's like
problem with that
1860 or something, the Kybalion. It's not like super modern, but it's late 1800s, I think, wasn't it basically like a translation of an earlier translation of the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and then it was kind of flipped, or Hermes from Greek.
Yeah.
But most of those books were just like copies of older texts, and as you go on through time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Keepers of the Flame, man. The problem with the Kybalion is that it cites itself, and that's the only thing that it cites. But to me, that's such a trickstery, hermetic way to be. And I totally get it. I don't think it's like an academic, academically sound, way to write a book. But like the way, what I try to influence people to do is just read the text and let it do what it's going to do. Don't appeal to antiquity, because have reverence for texts that are antiquated, but like read it, and you're gonna, I think instinctively you'll know everything you need to know is inside of you. So you'll suss out if it's bullshit, if it's something that doesn't resonate with you.
Right.
But I won't appeal to antiquity either, or academia for that matter. Not that I don't believe in rigorous study of all this stuff and accurate record keeping for sure, but like at some point it becomes about what is your experience doing it.
Yeah. Because I tried to read that years and years, and I'm just like, I don't get it. I'm trying to dig into the text. I'm trying to understand what even the Emerald Tablets, all those. I think I own in audio form, and they're all over the office. And from time to time, you pick them up, you read them. Until we talked to Amel about her experience reading the Emerald Tablets, and she started having all these wild experiences and and that's kind of how she found her path with the music and everything she's doing now. But it was just simply from reading it. Until talking to her, I didn't realize that, you're just sitting here trying to like do mental gymnastics to try to figure out what this is all about. But until you just said that, and with what Amel told me, I understand that now fully. Like thank you for that, because that is just it. You said just read it. You don't have to sit there and try to understand what the halls of Amenti are and all of these words that he's using.
Sure.
Because it's confusing if you're going to look at it that way.
And in that book, I also understand that was a channeling by someone who is. It's not an antiquated book. This is a very recent work, which was a channeling essentially. There is no real physical copy of that. Like I know, like Billy Carson likes to push it, and it's probably fictional, but I love it. I'll be honest with you. I don't care that it's rejected by a lot of people because it's about what it helps you understand when you read it. It's the old epithet of the wisdom of the entire universe in a blade of grass, right? You don't need this formula. Alchemists never agreed on anything in the first fucking place, right? I mean, that's all of like the 14th and 15th century is people arguing in their little manuscripts about the right way to do this and the right way to do that. Meanwhile, they're all encoding it differently because they'll be killed if they're caught with it. So it's such a layered thing that like ended up in our lap how it did. But you can still go back and read, alchemical texts and manuscripts. I mean, you can still go back and read all the important documents that people consider to be true alchemy. But I got my introduction into Hermeticism through the Kybalion, and that's sacrilege to many Hermeticists. They lose their minds when you hear that. But it's like I still love everything Hermes Trismegistus. I mean, the Poimander. I had a huge synchronicity with the Poimander. I don't know if you want to hear about that, but
sure.
It's very, very wild. So I kept waking up from sleep at the same time every day. And after not sleeping very much at all, and I kept hearing this Chopin concerto in my ears, like it was like ringing loud. It was a nocturne, I believe. And I would hear your number is 104. And I'm like, holy shit, 104, what does that mean? So like a week or two goes by. I'm not thinking anything about it. And I'm sitting here drawing in my little sacred geometry sketchbook, and I'm listening to music and stuff. And that song comes on. And I'm like, holy shit, my number is 104. I don't know why I had to like repeat that to myself, but it really fucked me up for some reason. I became emotional. So I turned the music off and I put on a podcast, and the guest on the podcast was happened to be Greg Little. And he was talking about the Path of Souls ritual. And so, and I had never heard anything about it at that point. I was like, that was new to me. I loved mound sites, but I was like, I don't know anything about this. And again, I kept it like rang in my ears loud, like, it's 104. And I don't know why, but I reached over here to my left and I grabbed a book, the only book that was sitting there, which was Manly P. Hall's Secret Teachings of All Ages.
It's right on the table.
Right? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. So like I turned to page 104. And if you turn to page 104 right now,
oh God,
in your copy, you will see an excerpt from Poimander. And maybe if it's on 104 in your copy, but in my copy, it's page 104. If it's formatted the same.
We'll find out. Let's see. The scientists and the theologians alike gaze upon the sacred structure. I mean, it is talking about sacred geometry. Okay.
Let me just give me 1 second. Sorry.
Yeah, you're good, dude. You're good.
Because I have to do this because this is what I found. So 104. It's a passage from the Poimander, where God is essentially telling Hermes about the nature of reality. And he says, "Behold, O Hermes, there is a great mystery in the eighth sphere, for the Milky Way is the seed ground of souls. And from it they drop into the rings, and to the Milky Way they return again from the wheels of Saturn."
Wow.
As I'm reading that, I'm listening to someone describe the Path of Souls ritual. And you guys know the implications of that. So it just, I'm shaking right now thinking of, that's why I had to grab that book. I'm like, God damn, that really messed me up, man. I was like, and it wasn't so much exactly what happened as much as the impression that it left me with. So, yeah, I mean, that really, that's what set me on the research of the Path of Souls. And I started downloading William Romaine's PDFs.
I was just going to ask you that. If you'd read any of that source material, because those guys were inspired, and even shout out Dr. William Romaine in their book. Andrew Collins and Dr. Gregory Little have the book, Native American Pathway of the Souls, which, you know, a good friend of ours really truly believes that Serpent Mound is actually a machine designed to navigate you through the pathway of the souls. So the alignments, basically it being aligned, the former North Pole of Draco, and Cygnus, which is the swan that rides through the Milky Way, and that is literally the river of the souls. And you're
North
riding
Star
on
at that time, done it, right?
And it's really, I mean, it adds up a little bit. I mean, I totally resonated when he started talking to me, and he didn't know about the pathway of the souls. I actually talked to him. This is just an experience that he had. He started talking. It's this machine, and your soul goes through the Milky Way. It's like, dude, that's the pathway of the souls. That's Dr. William Romaine. There's books and research. You know, this is really weird that you're telling me this. And he doesn't look into that kind of stuff. But I knew a little bit about it and kind of gathered that, you know, there's a connection there. So that's
exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
That's a perfect example of like someone coming to that. This is what Hermeticism has done for me. It's helped me come to realizations of things that I don't even really quite understand through synchronicity. And like your friend has made that connection without ever having researched it day one. That's a powerful thing, man. I think that reality is so mystical that way. And, you know, I don't ignore stuff like that. I think it's very powerful.
Totally agree. Angel mounds. That's a topic that we've talked a little bit, and I know that's kind of the beginning of the inspiration, but we would love to get out there and make a little Strange Road field trip and team up, make some content. You know, you kind of give us a little tour. I would love to do that. I think where you're at's about 5 or 6 hour drive, but there's a lot of stuff we could, you know, do around there too. But what makes Angel Mound so special, and why did you just get like totally pulled in? Did you research the history deeply as well? Was there anything really written about it?
Yeah, so there's quite a bit. They distribute their little book at their visitor center, and it's a wonderful little publication. It has like some accuracy things in it that I would pick out, but I won't put them on blast here. So, you know, Angel Mounds is interesting because it's a massive city. Even among some of the Mississippian sites, I think it's like the third largest or fourth largest or something like that. And it's 412 acres. So, and Mound A is huge. You're talking the conical mound on the southeast corner makes it 4 stories high. So, yeah. And
wow.
Monk's Mound at Cahokia had a conical mound on the southeast corner.
Yeah.
And these mounds, these like major mounds where these chiefs would essentially their house would be, are generally situated I think like 22 degrees off north-south axis, right? So does that line up with the Milky Way? Probably. That's what I plan on doing for the winter solstice. I'm going to be at Angel, and I'm hoping they're going to let me stay after dark because I want to see if I can see Scorpius constellation come up from the south, maybe in the direction of Mound F, which is a temple mound, which is largely a reconstruction, by the way, because that was almost entirely excavated. So, and part of the reason was that people had started burying, settlers had started burying their dead there.
Sure.
So they knew how important that was.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, there's a lot of facts about it that are interesting. Like there's 12 mounds total, but one of them is probably an Adena mound. And that's kind of like, I don't know of any other mound site that has that. And also has mounds I and D, for example, that are semi-subterranean, almost like an entryway into the earth for some reason, because they stopped, and probably due to NAGPRA, I want to assume. I shouldn't assume that. This is all speculation, but I don't know why they stopped excavating it. But they will tell you at the site that is unusual at a Mississippian site to have that sort of a structure. And they said there was a burial down there that was disturbed. I don't know what that means. So, I mean, yeah, Angel is awesome. You guys are going to love Angel. It's a good site to connect with. It had like, I'm talking massive palisade, 1.25 miles of palisade. So, which, you know, compared to Cahokia is not much, you know, but to me, that's like, for people that they say were primitive and, you know, had a limited understanding of construction, I'm like, well, I don't think you guys are telling the truth because I think they had a very good concept of construction and geometry and, you know, obviously the precession of equinoxes and this kind of thing, man. It just begs for exploration. And that's what trapped me. It was the guidance from spirit. But as I started like learning more about these places and like going there and connecting with them, I'm like, no. There's something's off. And so there's layers to it. There's the fact that I absolutely love being there. I absolutely love it. And that's every site I've been to. I did have a weird experience at Wycliffe where I got like a really sick feeling to my stomach out of nowhere. Wycliffe was weird, but their museum
Where's that at?
dope.
Where's Wycliffe at?
Wycliffe, it's on the west side of Paducah, Kentucky.
Okay.
It's about 2.5 to 3 hours from here. But their museum is dope. You would love it because they have like where the main mound was is like partially excavated, and you can go in there and see like how they would do their like you know, their archaeological sites, how they would structure it. They have a bunch of artifacts and stuff. It's really cool.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I had that sick feeling out of nowhere. But for the most part, when I go to a mound site, I try to connect, and I try to understand, and I try to write. I mean, that's kind of my thing. Is I like to write. Like I don't even think I'm that big of a fan of poetry, but it comes to all of us all the time. Poetry is coming at you and unfolding at you in the way of life. And you use your senses to create it. It's what any artist does. Some people do it with a pen and pad. Some people do it with graffiti on the side of a train, and I love that shit. But you know, that's I think it just comes at you all the time. It's how you express it. And I can actually lock into energy and kind of explain myself better. I mean, you guys know what that's like at Serpent Mound, when you go, you feel like clearer almost in a way. I don't know if maybe that's not your experience. That's mine, where I feel like almost like I've been asleep and now I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very, very powerful feeling.
Absolutely. When I go to these places, for me, I meet the weirdest people ever that end up pushing me in some kind of direction. So yeah, I do have kind of personal experiences, but I always meet interesting people, the strangest people out of nowhere. That still to this day, I keep in contact with some of those people. And some of those people like Terry, who I met years and years ago when I had my, fairly young daughter that I brought there on a winter solstice, and found out years and years later, oh, that was Terry. She invited me into her women's group, and I burnt smudge sage and burnt all this. So it's always people. Then when I leave, it's like people that I've either met getting out there, or right after, I'll meet somebody that will just blow my mind, or some kind of connection. It's almost just like it opens up a portal for like-minded people to somehow, like, I become a magnet for whatever it is I need, the type of person that I need to meet that day.
It's medicine.
Yeah.
It's very medicinal.
Absolutely. Have you had any, what was sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to ask you, the first time you went to Serpent Mound, is there anything kind of strange or vibe that you felt there? Did you get to, 'cause you've been there a few times, yeah?
I've been there. I feel like it's been like 5 or 6 times. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the same thing every time. And sometimes like funny things will happen that, well, maybe not funny, but funny to me. Like, I did that trip across Ohio where I hit Miamisburg, Fort Hill. Then I went all the way up to Newark. And on my way back from Gatlinburg, because I ended up in Gatlinburg, on my way back, I went to Serpent Mound. And it was the partial eclipse in the fall. And I'm sitting there on the picnic table, the one that's not far from the little shop museum. And I'm meditating, and I have like my oracle cards, right? And I love my oracle cards. I bring them to mound sites every time because I think they speak to you through those. And when I say they, that, insert whatever you think that means. But I'm meditating, I'm trying to connect, and a righteous wind blows up right as I'm like starting to feel a body buzz off of this meditation. A righteous wind blows up, and this gigantic leaf blasts me in the face and brings me completely out of it. And I knock my cards off the table, and I go to pick it up, and I see this card that has been haunting me at every single mound site. And it's the Shapeshifter card. I pulled it 3 times in a row on top of Monk's Mound, the same card. And I pulled it at Angel Sight. It was like haunting me and like when I would do a card pull, and even for other people, it just was like, it let me know that Trickster, whether it's a liminal being inside or it has a more ontological sort of expression outside of us, it just let me know that I was being that psychopomp, that I was being prompted. You're on the right path. You're in the right direction. Just chill, find your spot. I don't know what the slap was about. That was kind of jarring, but I think it has a sense of humor that way. And, but yeah, every time I go to Serpent Mound, it's crazy. It's insane. Like you just don't want to go, really. I mean, you don't want to leave. Every time it's time to go, I'm like, damn, like I feel like I could just live there. And that's almost every mound site for me, though. So I think these are on powerful spots on the earth. Maybe that has something to do with it. Obviously Serpent Mound with the impact crater, and that's going to draw the most. I mean, because I don't know of another site like that. honestly, that has that much magic surrounding it.
No, it's pretty
So-
unique.
It's tough to find one. Did you make your way to the rock shop when you visited Serpent
I did,
Mound? Yeah.
I did.
Did you
I
get
got one of my little trilobites.
There
Yeah.
you go. Oh,
Nice.
there you go.
I bought like some moonstone. I got
Yeah.
a little tower. Yeah. It was cool, man. I love what he's doing out there, by the way. The carvings are the shit.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like that. That's wild to me. But yeah, and my favorite thing about that was the cats. Because I love
Doppelganger
cats.
cats.
Hell yeah.
Oh, damn.
All day.
Like,
Yeah. I'm a cat lover, so that's my thing. But
nice.
no, seriously, they are my favorite. But no, the trilobite display I was like, holy shit. Like it was kind of blowing my mind looking at all that. And yeah, I love that place. I did not go into the dollar store across the way, the haunted one. I did not go into there, but I probably should have.
I did, and I remember asking the cashier that time, and I was like, "Yay, have you ever seen a ghost here?" And this lady just stopped.
She
was
freaked
like,
out.
"Why would you ask that?" And I was like, "I'm sorry." I was like, "I've just heard that this place is haunted," and she's like, "Well, it is, but
Yeah.
I don't know if it's something that just happened that day." But yeah, she was like, "Oh yeah, it's a guy. It's like 8:00 at night. This will happen. This will It was almost like a routine thing after a while with certain ones. I don't know if there was like a multitude of different encounters, but yeah, that's pretty well.
What do you think is behind that?
There was a house
Like,
that
why
was built
the
there.
shock?
I don't think it's about the house.
The one that they tore down
I don't think it's about
across the street could be connected. But Tom said it was that whole area
I
already.
think it's just that area in general.
Yeah.
I
was thinking more of like what's behind her reaction to that, because like guys like us, we hear that
same. I thought
we're
the same
like,
thing.
yeah, like are we just that weird where we're like, no, yeah, tell me about the ghost. I want to hear it. Like,
Yeah.
And other people are just like, I don't want to talk about that. I have to deal.
No,
Like,
there's people that have
I don't
quit.
know.
There's
Yeah.
people that have quit
Sure. Yeah.
for sure that didn't want to be around that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Really? They've quit
I don't
there?
know that I would want to work at a haunted. If I mean, I scare Mike here during the day, but if it was a
Dude,
if it was a real,
I almost clocked you
like,
today,
multiple times a
right
day.
in the face.
but if there was a ghost
By
here or
accident.
something that I had to deal with, and it all depends on the disposition. I mean, if it was like malevolent or this, that, or whatever. But I mean, yeah, I mean, people get a little freaked out. It's understandable. I mean, we're into all this, right? We're into a lot of this. Again, like I'm saying, like I've just gotten done listening to multiple books on skinwalkers. Like my mom or family friends, that aren't into this are like, what?
damn.
Oh, a walker? You're like, yeah, skinwalker. They're like, shapeshifters. Live out on reservations, and they'll look at you and they have no clue what you're talking about. So I can open myself up to a lot more and be like, yeah, I could see that. I could see this. I mean, I can't see that because I've never seen it. There's certain things that are hard for me to get behind because I've not had a personal encounter or experience. I'm not going to lie. It's tough for me, right? Like, there are certain things where I'll tell people, like, I believe you and I believe that you had that experience. I don't know that it makes it real for everybody, if it makes it real for you. And once we get to enough, corroboration that we can say, okay, these are, it's tough. Again, like, how many people go to a football game on Sundays or, Saturdays? Thousands, hundreds of thousands, one person might have saw a Sasquatch here, or, saw an orb or had this experience to where it's like, it's the tree falling in the forest, and you're the only one around to hear it. It still makes a sound, but just for you.
Absolutely. I think that's where like my religious practice, I don't even want to call it religious, a spiritual practice, being based in Hermeticism helps me in the whole mental universe theory, which is supported now. That they won the Nobel Prize in 2022 with the non-local universe.
Yeah,
like it's damn near confirmed, and thankfully, because that lends credence to what you're saying, and that like is the individual experience. And that's why I love the Red Book so much, man. Like, it's a complete descent into absolute madness. When he starts talking about the desert.
Yeah, go into that a little bit. We missed over on this earlier. I distracted you when you were talking about the Red Book.
No, you're fine. So it's he has a lot of dialogue with these archetypes, and it's hard to imagine having this many nights in a row, because he'll talk about on the 24th night, and you're like, God damn, dude, like give this man a break. Like he's going insane. But when you've dealt with that yourself, and I've never dealt with anything to that degree of like realism, and definitely not that long, but clearly he's trying to connect concepts. Clearly he's trying to make sense out of these larger concepts that people have a hard time understanding about the process that he refers to as individuation, which is like confronting your shadow. That's where the term shadow work comes from, I believe, is a Jungian term. And it's a very important concept. But the Red Book is one of those books that you just have to read, because, and I want to know if you guys end up doing it, or if you have already, you might already have looked at it. I want to know stories about it if you have, because like, dude, is it doing this to everyone? You know, is it having that impact on everyone? I even Googled it one day. I'm like, is the Red Book just fucking everybody's world up like me? Like, because it's that kind of experience.
What's an example of something that happened while you were reading this?
It's more of making connections to the archetypes within you. When he talks about it, and you start to see instances in your life where you notice that you were embodying that sort of polarity, you know, it's just it resonates, and it doesn't resonate on like a superficial level. It resonates on a level that's like, I need to understand this. Like, I feel like I have a gnosis of what he's talking about, and it's kind of scary, man. It's like if you ever been on a boat. I don't like the water necessarily, like the ocean. I like it, but it's like I think of like putting my foot off the edge of a boat and being scared to kind of like jump in. That's kind of how it feels like to read this book. But
wow.
I don't know if all his stuff is like that, and maybe that's why he didn't want it published. I don't know. It could have some egregoric sort of like power behind it or something. I don't know, but it's hard to pinpoint a specific example. It's one of those things, like in the first book of Liber Novus, he talks a lot about, I mean, it gets grimy. He's talking about like relationships with people, and judgments against himself, and he confronts these characters that are all coming to him, and it's just very powerful. And when you start to notice like the parallels within your own life, and like, oh, I see that element, it just helps you understand. It's kind of like when I was in group therapy and I would see someone's wheels turning. It's very much that same thing, where it's hard to kind of discern exactly what you're absorbing, but it's beneficial in some way. It's meaningful, and probably different for everyone. I don't know. I think like, even if I could articulate what affects me about it, that might be completely different for anybody else. The Hermetic texts are like that for me. And I think that's how it's meant to be, when people read stuff like the newer stuff, like the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which I think is probably in all likelihood, it's fraudulent. But when I read it, I'm like, yo, this is messed up. And it has me feeling something. Like I feel I feel this in my bones. And I've actually had synchronicities related to that book, related to my reverse speech compulsion. So and stuff that I can't really explain. One of those things was I was reading that book, and again, I had classical music on because for some reason it helps me my compulsion not force me to read backwards when I listen to classical music while I read. I don't know why. But something told me, read this backwards. And for some reason, I focused on a specific word, and it came out as Uranus. And we know Uranus as
Uranus.
the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is Greek mythology. And that I sat on that for a while, and it hit me like this marriage of spirit and material that started to like sink in. And I was kind of panicking. So I'm like text messaging a friend of mine, and I'm like, hey, I'm kind of freaking out right now. And I haven't had this happen before or since, I start getting a call from this blocked number out of nowhere. And every time I pick it up, it's making these crazy noises that sounds like machines, but also like someone chattering like, yeah, 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 yeah. And I'm like, hello? Like, what the hell? And this happened for days after that. I have no explanation for that. And somehow I knew, because it happened almost immediately after I started texting, hey, something is wrong. I'm having this weird, I can't tell if I need to go back to the hospital or what,
Wow.
Like it was one of them things where like, I'm really tripping right now. Like, and then that didn't help. You see what I mean? Like when you start getting these phone calls, and you're like, what does this mean? What is happening? So I don't know. These things can affect you. And I think we have to apply the meaning to them ourselves. I'm still at a loss for that one. And it did get me more into Greek mythology though. So, and the understanding of that duality, you know what I mean? Kind of like that Heraclitus type of like, that confrontation of energy, right? The masculine, the feminine, the logos, and and the earth, the prima materia. It kind of like brought me to a deeper understanding of that concept. Yeah, and again, that's like I said, I don't know if the text, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, is fraudulent or not.
Let me ask
But to
you a
me,
question.
it doesn't really.
Let me ask you a question. So the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, because there's a lot of different books that are, you have like the Compendium of the Emerald. That's Billy Carson's book, right? When you say
Right,
it's a newer book, which one are you referring to? Because I get all these Hermes Trismegistus and the Kybalion and the Emerald Tablets.
Sure.
I get them so mixed up. Are you saying that the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, do you think it's written off of a real tablet that was that? Because that's what Billy Carson believes, is that it was Thoth the Atlantean had written these tablets. They were real tablets, and somebody had translated them because they came about, then they went missing again, and then they came up again. They were translated throughout time, and then recently they went missing in like the 1800s, where now supposedly they're underneath the right paw of the Sphinx. Who knows? So
I think so.
Are you saying that the translation is recent? Do you think that it's actually based off of an ancient text?
I think that
Or
it
it's
could
made
be
up?
inspired by that.
Okay.
But the Maurice Doreal,
There you
that
go.
version, that
Thank you.
he's sort of Billy. I don't want to throw shade at him because I like some of his videos and I like some of what he talks about. I think he gets an unfair amount of shit thrown at him when he's really just trying to. I think, maybe he capitalizes on it too much. I get it. He's selling you stuff, whatever. But I mean, he does put the videos out there for free. And if they help you, they help you. And that's kind of my whole point in it. I do believe it's inspired by that, but I think the the channeling of Maurice Doreal is kind of like, I'm a channeler, man. So I get it, but I don't expect people to take anything I channel as
Holy
gospel.
scripture. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I think if it means something to you, that's beautiful. And that's the best thing I could ever hope for as a writer, is for me to produce something that means something to you and can
Right.
help you in some way. And I get it out of me, because it's a very tedious process. If Maurice Doreal, if what he went through in channeling that, or whoever I don't know, maybe he didn't channel it. Maybe it was given to him by someone else who channels. I don't know. But it can be very unpleasant to channel. It's not all, like Bashar makes it look so awesome, but for me, it's not that experience. I've even had instances where I can't sleep and I have to write. I'll come down here and I'll just start writing and writing and writing, and get so worked up, like my nose will bleed. Yeah, it's very uncomfortable sometimes. It's not like a beautiful, like, thing that it's not like something I want to do sometimes. And then sometimes I find myself peacefully doing it, and kind of like flowing with the rhythm of it. It's always different, but it can be very hairy, and I sympathize with that. But again, I do think it's borrowed from and inspired by hermetic texts for sure. And there's certainly some lore to it. If you tie in some of the channelings from Edgar Casey, and stuff like that, like there's kind of some parallels. You start to see some of the threads of connection, and I think that there's probably something to it. But the reason why I say it might be fraudulent is that it might be, just like if I get a psychopomp or a message or a download that what I've just channeled is from, let's say, is from Mercury, the Roman god Mercury. Now you can believe that if you want, and I can even believe it, but that doesn't make it so. So, that being said, I love that book, and I've listened to the audiobook while reading the actual tablets probably 25 times over, because I like how I feel when I do it. And it presents something to you. And that goes back to what I was saying before. Like, you have to pay attention when you're reading these things. I'm never going to convince any like contemporary hermeticist to believe in the emerald tablets. Probably never going to happen. These guys are so caught up in like the academic, like, and that's great, because you need that. You have to have some sort of grounding. But not me, man. I speculate all day, and I look for that golden thread, in everything. You can find it in Abrahamic religions. You can find it in Buddhism. You can find it in I Love Lucy reruns. You can find it in on the back of a shampoo bottle. But you should always approach it with a hermeneutic of skepticism. But don't let that be your, don't let that be your absolute. Like, I remain open-minded to the fact that while it might be a fraudulent document as far as what it claims to be, I absolutely love it. I know that's a weird stance to take, but that's kind of where I stand on it. It's like the Kybalion, the three initiates, whoever they are, they're very likely the same kind of premise. That book helped me see the 7 principles as 7 straight lines on a central axis. The only way to make a true sphere out of that is to have every one of those in balance. And that's the object, is to make the sphere. The circle is us. That's us. So, and maybe I'm saying too much, but
no, that's beautiful.
No,
That's beautiful, man. I couldn't have found a better way to end this conversation. I mean, the golden thread is in everything.
It is.
Even I love Lucy reruns. Fucking beautiful, brother. This has been,
Yeah.
I mean, we went all over the map, and here we are back at the essence of, I think, where you're heading is this alchemical world of trying to understand yourself. You know, and it really does sound like you've been on a journey of where you were, and you know, every time I talk to you, it seems like you're more and more grounded but happier. And you know, I've noticed you got the website, and you're starting to kind of unfold as, you know, stepping into your power as a poet and a writer. So, dude, keep it up. You're killing it. Again, let everybody know where we can find you one more time. And Phillip, Chasing Mound Builders, everybody, fantastic.
I appreciate that so much. That means a lot to me, coming from you guys, because I'm a fan, and yeah. So you can find me on Instagram is where I'm most active. I don't do much with the website, but go to my link tree. The Apocryphon of Raccoon, that's me, borrowed from the lore of Azeban, the raccoon. You know, you see him on the Axis Mundi, the top of the Axis Mundi. Yeah, it's free. You know, it's published on Lulu. You can go to the top of my link tree. It's there. Read it. Leave me a review there. Tell me what you think. If it's trash, tell me that too. I love it. I love all of it. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys, man. This is awesome talking to you guys. It's been an absolute honor for me to chat with you guys.
For sure. For sure.
Brother, the honor is all ours. This has been in the making. So glad we got to do it. And we'd love to come visit you at Angel Mounds and do a little excursion.
Road trip, yeah.
Because, man, you've got me fired up for that visit. So,
Dude, let's go.
We'll keep in contact. This has been amazing. Once again, Phillip, Chasing Mound Builders, everybody. Much love, brother.
Later, man.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Guys, that was fantastic. Thank you to each and every one of you. Make sure you follow us at The Strange Road on everywhere. We've got some great episodes coming up. We're going to keep those live streams happening, moving forward. We appreciate all the new subscribers and viewers and people and YouTube and Spotify and Apple and wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, and that notification bell. Love, peace, and chicken grease. We are out.
Later, everybody.